Congratulations on the approval. What we really want to know, Stan, is how the Novavax vaccine is going to fit into the existing program, in that it seems like availability of vaccine is not the problem. It's vaccine hesitancy. How do you fit into it?
Well, thanks for having me on. There are a few features that we can talk about. One is after generating a great deal of efficacy and safety data over the past year for a protein-based vaccine, we also have great stability data, which means that we can get our vaccine out globally without freezing. We can get it it's stored at normal refrigerated temperatures. It can be at room temperature for some period of time. And that's going to be very helpful to get it to all parts of the world. That's probably point number one. Point number two is that we've shown that the vaccine boosts very effectively. Now, there's going to be a lot of boosting going on, particularly with Omicron, and we think our vaccine is primed for that. So those are some of the advantages that we've got. Also, there's vaccine hesitancy. And for people who are more comfortable with a more traditional protein-based vaccine, that will hopefully expand the population of people that get vaccinated.
Stan, can we just dig a little deeper? It's Guy. Congratulations on the news.
Sure.
I think we've all been waiting for this for a very long time, so very happy to see it finally happen. You talk about the mix and match. I've had 2 Astra and 1 Pfizer. Could I have a Novavax after that?
Sure. That's the data that we're generating. Both that we have generated through studies that have been sponsored in the UK, and we've just recently started a new trial in the US to show precisely the mix and match, the ability to mix and match.
For the traditional vaccines, like a J&J, the U.S. FDA recommended the mRNAs over the traditional vaccines. What kind of data do you have? If we take kind of the Pfizer and Moderna, and then you got the J&J, where do you fit within that in terms of your efficacy?
Well, in terms of efficacy, I think we've generated probably the best efficacy of anybody. We did it at a time when the variants, alpha and beta variants, were just emerging, and we showed that our vaccine had very effective, 90+% effect on efficacy, and so we're quite comfortable with that efficacy profile.
Stan, can I come back to the issue of logistics, but actually the fundamental logistics of this?
Sure.
Given the well-worn path we now see for some of the other vaccines in terms of getting them to market, getting them into people's arms, how does it actually work getting a new vaccine into the process? Just logistically of like trucks and containers and doctors' surgeries and hospitals, how does it actually happen? And how quickly does that part of the equation kind of start to work?
Well, this is a well-worn pathway. I mean, we've been vaccinating the world's children for decades with a refrigerated pathway, and we've partnered with a company called Serum Institute, which is the largest vaccine distributor in the world, and they vaccinate, I think, somewhere around 2/3 of the world's kids get vaccinated every year with their distribution system. So in the low and middle income parts of the world, we've got a partner, Serum Institute, that can get our vaccine out using just the traditional pathway, and of course that's even more so in the high income countries.
Stan, we were just showing a chart of UK cases. Obviously, the dominant strain now, Omicron, in the US, the UK, et cetera. Were you able to test against Omicron? Do you have an idea of when you might get that kind of data, or if you need to sort of update the vaccine to be able to hit individual variants?
Well, we're doing 2 things. One is we're checking, we're evaluating the serum from people who've already been vaccinated, and looking at the Omicron responses, the antibody responses to Omicron. We'll have those data within days. And so our expectation, based upon what we saw with Alpha, Beta, and Delta, is that we'll have a robust protective level of antibodies with Omicron, just as we have with the others. And in addition, we're making a new variant, an Omicron strain variant, in the data from the trials that we're doing now, the evaluations we're doing now, will guide us into whether we should be adding a new variant strain or sticking with what we have. And all those data will come out fairly soon, and we'll work with the World Health agencies to determine the pathway forward for the variant strain.
Stan, when are we going to get approval in the United States? What's the timeline there? And do you need, how critical is it that you get that approval? Because I'm really curious, if I'm vaccinated with your shot here in the UK and I want to travel to the United States, is that going to be a problem? And do you think you're going to get full uptake until you see a kind of greater swath of countries that have approved the shot?
No, I think we will get quite a bit of uptake, both as a booster and as I mentioned, there's still 40% of the population that's not been vaccinated yet, and we'll try to chip away at that in an aggressive fashion. So I think you asked about approvals. We've actually filed globally with about 8 or 9 different agencies, and I think last week we announced that the World Health Organization has approved us, which gets us a pathway into all of the developed countries of the world, and the developing countries in the world. And we filed. We just got European approval. We looked for the UK, Australia. We are filing with the US a final package within the next few days. And then that'll just go through the regulatory approval process. So we think that while this is a global problem, and our vaccine now we've actually been shipping vaccine to Indonesia, which is where we got our first approval. We shipped about 5 million doses there, and we'll continue to ship there. But the U.S., of course, is an important market for us as well.
We learned today that the double dose of AstraZeneca vaccine only has about 3 months until you need a booster. Do you have a sense from Novavax about the Novavax vaccine and sort of how long immunity is going to last and when we need a booster? I mean, now we're already starting to hear rumors about the 4th booster, or the 2nd booster, 4th shot.
Right. So those data take time to develop. We do have some data showing that we have an effective response that lasts out to 6 months and beyond. And so we'll get more data and find out. We do know that boosting gets us a very strong immune response back above the levels after the 2nd dose. And so again, those data are being generated over time. What I expect is that we're going to be seeing COVID vaccination on some regular basis, and so what we're doing at Novavax is we started a trial last year where we've actually combined our flu vaccine with a COVID vaccine, and we'll have data on that coming up by the end of the next quarter, and show that maybe the best way to do this is to have an annual seasonal respiratory vaccine, which would involve COVID and flu.